I had lived in Willow Creek Estates long enough to know that the word community was more a marketing slogan than reality. The Homeowners Association had a reputation for nitpicking about lawns, fence paint shades, and mailboxes that leaned half an inch too far. But in all my years of keeping my head down, paying my dues, and quietly minding my business, nothing prepared me for the storm that was about to hit my life. And it had a name: Karen. Her real name was Denise, but everyone in the neighborhood called her Karen behind closed doors because she embodied everything the stereotype promised. Platinum blonde bob cut, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown, yoga pants despite never having stepped foot in a gym, and a permanent scowl that said the world existed to inconvenience her. She was the self-appointed guardian of the standards. A woman who believed she could bend the rules of others but lived above them herself. Our first brush came when my Tesla Model Y arrived. It was more than just a car to me. It was a step toward independence, toward living the eco-conscious life I dreamed of. I had solar panels installed and ordered the official Tesla wall connector. The installation was clean, permitted, and completely within regulations. My driveway was finally future-proof. Karen, however, saw it differently. "This neighborhood isn't zoned for gas stations," she sneered one afternoon when I was standing outside, admiring the finished Charger. "It's not a gas station, Karen. It's an EV charger," I said, keeping my tone calm. She folded her arms, tilting her head as though I'd confessed to running a meth lab. "It's unsightly, brings down property values. What's next? You'll start renting out the driveway as a fueling station?" I laughed, but it wasn't from amusement. It's 2025. Electric cars aren't a fad, they're the future. The HOA approved it. End of discussion. Karen didn't take end of discussion lightly. For weeks, she made petty jabs, complaining about the car's silent creepiness as it rolled down the street, accusing me of hogging too much electricity from the grid, even spreading rumors at the HOA meetings that my Charger was a fire hazard. But none of it stuck, because my permits and paperwork were ironclad. Tesla doesn't play games, and neither do I. Then came the night of the crime. I came home late from a client dinner, the Tesla battery hovering around 20%. I parked, plugged in, and went inside, exhausted. Sometime between midnight and dawn, while the neighborhood slept, Karen made her move. Security footage later revealed her creeping across my yard in gloves, wielding a pair of heavy-duty cutters like she was auditioning for a heist film. She yanked, tore, and cut through the wiring with the precision of someone who thought they knew what they were doing. Sparks flew briefly before the breaker tripped. By the time she was finished, the Charger was ripped clean off the wall, wires dangling like veins torn from flesh. She stuffed the mangled hardware into a trash bag and dragged it down the block like a trophy. I discovered the destruction at sunrise. My stomach dropped when I saw the Charger missing, cable shredded, the panel cracked. At first, disbelief held me frozen. Then fury roared through my veins. I pulled up my security feed, and there she was, Karen, caught red-handed under the glare of my infrared night vision camera. She had that smug, self-satisfied smirk plastered on her face as she wrestled my Charger free. The footage was damning, but Tesla's reaction was even better. When I called their service department, they dispatched a technician within hours. He took one look and whistled. "She didn't just break your Charger, she damaged your electrical system. This whole thing needs rewiring." My heart sank at the thought of the cost. But before I could speak, the technician pulled out his tablet. "Don't worry, it's under warranty for the parts. But the deliberate damage? That's billable. And since you've got the culprit on camera," he gave me a knowing smile, "Tesla will invoice her directly." I blinked. "Wait, you can do that?" "Absolutely. Our Chargers are serialized and registered. When someone destroys one, it's no different than totaling a leased vehicle. The liability falls on the offender." He tapped a few keys. "Looks like this is going to run north of $14,000. Between the hardware, rewiring, and labor, She's in for a nasty surprise. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. By that evening, the bill was processed and emailed, not to me, but directly to Karen. Tesla used her HOA-registered contact information, cross-verified through the police report I'd filed that morning. The detective assigned to the case even chuckled when he saw the footage. This is the dumbest vandalism I've ever seen. She didn't just commit property damage, she tampered with a high-voltage line. That's reckless endangerment.
Word spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. By the time Karen returned from her daily Starbucks run, neighbors were whispering on their lawns, eyes following her as she strutted down the sidewalk in her usual self-important stride. She hadn't checked her email yet, but the wolves were already circling. I was sitting on my porch when it happened. Karen stormed up my driveway, finger jabbing the air like a weapon. "You think you're clever," she spat. "Calling the cops on me? Making up stories? I didn't touch your stupid charger." I sipped my coffee, calm as ever. "Funny, because my camera caught you in 4K. Want to see yourself committing a felony?" Her face twitched, a micro-expression of panic she tried to bury under a fresh mask of indignation. "That footage is fake. Deepfakes are everywhere these days. You can't prove it was me." Just then, her phone buzzed. She glanced down, and I watched her face drain of color as she opened the email. Her lips parted, eyes scanning the figure again and again as though an extra zero had appeared by mistake. $14,387.52. The coffee never tasted sweeter. "What is this?" she shrieked, shoving the phone toward me. This is harassment. They can't charge me for this." "They can, and they did. Tesla doesn't play games, Karen. You ripped out their equipment, you pay for it. Consider it karma with a price tag." Her breathing grew rapid, erratic. She clutched the phone with trembling hands, muttering numbers under her breath, as though reciting them would somehow shrink them. Finally, with a strangled cry, she turned on her heel and staggered away, neighbors gawking as she nearly tripped on the curb. It was only the beginning. What Karen didn't realize was that Tesla's billing department wasn't her only problem. The police were building their case. The HOA was now forced to hold an emergency meeting, and her reputation, already fragile, was about to unravel completely. But revenge, like electricity, flows in currents, and once it starts, there's no stopping it. The next few days in Willow Creek Estates were nothing short of theater. The quiet, sterile neighborhood had never known this much drama, and Karen, who once thrived on attention, suddenly found herself drowning in the wrong kind of spotlight. By Monday, the Tesla bill had already become neighborhood gossip. People whispered about it at mailboxes, exchanged chuckles over hedges, and shared screenshots of the invoice in hushed group chats. Someone even printed it out and pinned it to the HOA clubhouse bulletin board. $14,387.52 in bold at the top, like a scarlet letter. Karen tried to bluff her way through. "It's a scam," she barked at Mrs. Hastings across the street when confronted about it. "Do you really think I'd be stupid enough to vandalize someone's property? I'm being framed." But the video didn't lie, and the police detective, Officer Ramirez, had already paid her a visit. I caught a glimpse from my porch as his cruiser pulled into her driveway. Karen stood there, hands flailing, voice raised, while Ramirez stayed calm, clipboard in hand, clearly unimpressed. The conversation ended with a yellow citation tucked under his arm, and Karen's face flushed beet red. The HOA was forced to act next. They called an emergency meeting in the clubhouse on Thursday. Every homeowner was there, the air buzzing with anticipation. Karen, for once, didn't sit at the front row where she usually positioned herself to lecture others. She sat near the back, arms crossed, sunglasses perched, even though we were indoors. Mr. Lowell, the HOA president, cleared his throat nervously. We are here to discuss the matter of property vandalism that occurred last week. As many of you have seen, there is clear video evidence showing a member of this community deliberately damaging another resident's charging station. The murmurs rose. Karen shifted in her seat, glaring daggers at me across the room. Lowell continued. This behavior is not only against HOA policy, but also violates state law. Effective immediately, the board is issuing a fine of $5,000, suspension of community privileges, and a mandatory review of her membership status. The gasps were audible. Karen shot up from her chair. You can't do this. I am this community. Without me, this place would fall apart. You vandalized private property, Denise. You put the safety of this entire neighborhood at risk. That isn't leadership. That's criminal.
The room erupted in whispers, half disgusted, half entertained. Karen stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. But the storm had only just begun. Tesla wasn't backing down. Their collections department, efficient and merciless, sent her a certified letter within the week outlining payment deadlines and consequences of non-compliance. Legal jargon filled the pages, but the message was simple: pay up or face court. When she tried calling to argue, the customer service rep calmly reminded her that vandalism was logged as malicious tampering in their system, tied to a criminal case number already on file. Ma'am, the rep said with disarming politeness, this is no longer a dispute. It is a debt, a legally enforceable one. That's when cracks started to show in Karen's perfect facade. Her Starbucks runs slowed, then stopped. Packages from online shopping, once stacked daily on her porch, no longer appeared. Neighbors noticed her car missing for hours at odd times. Rumor had it she was visiting lawyers, though none were eager to take her case once they saw the evidence. Then came the foreclosure scare. I was mowing my lawn when I overheard Karen on the phone, pacing her driveway, voice shrill. No, I can't afford $14,000 plus legal fees. Are you insane? I'll sue them. I'll sue everyone. A pause, then a desperate, don't you dare talk to me about repossession. Don't you dare. It was delicious irony. The woman who once bragged about her immaculate credit was now fighting to keep her financial world from crumbling. But karma wasn't done with her yet. Officer Ramirez knocked on her door 2 weeks later with a court summons. The district attorney had decided to pursue charges of criminal mischief and reckless endangerment. Tesla's legal team offered to testify, and thanks to my video, the evidence was irrefutable. I'll never forget the day of her arraignment. Karen strutted into the courthouse in her oversized sunglasses, trying to project power. But when the judge read out the charges and the potential penalties, that veneer cracked. Bail is set at $2,000, the judge said firmly. Her jaw dropped. $2,000? For what? Cutting some wires? For endangering a residential power system and causing damages exceeding $10,000, the judge replied, unimpressed. This is not a trivial matter, Ms. Denton. Neighbors whispered for weeks about how she scrambled to pull together bail. Word was her husband, long tired of her antics, refused to front the money. In the end, she pawned her jewelry and begged her estranged sister for help. By the time the trial rolled around, Karen was a shell of her former self. Gone was the arrogant strut, replaced with a jittery, hunched figure who flinched every time someone mentioned Tesla. The prosecution was swift and brutal. My video played on the courtroom screen, every frame clear as daylight. Karen tried to claim it was fabricated, but the timestamp, metadata, and corroborating testimony from the Tesla technician destroyed her defense. Her lawyer stammered, but there was no saving her.
The jury didn't even take a full hour. Guilty. The sentence, a hefty fine, probation, and mandatory community service. The Tesla bill still stood, now backed by a court order. The final nail in her coffin came months later. She couldn't pay. Between the HOA fines, legal fees, and Tesla's collections, her financials collapsed. Debt collectors swarmed, her car was repossessed, and finally, the for sale sign went up on her immaculate front lawn. On her last day in the neighborhood, I watched from my porch as movers hauled boxes into a rented truck. Karen stood on the curb, arms limp, her once fiery glare replaced by hollow defeat. When her eyes met mine, she looked away quickly, as if ashamed. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The sight of her downfall was victory enough. Weeks later, a young couple moved into her house, friendly, easygoing, excited to join the community. The air around Willow Creek felt lighter, freer. No more snide remarks about property values, no more surveillance of everyone else's lives. And me? My new Tesla Charger gleamed against the garage wall, humming softly each night as my car charged without interruption. Every time I plugged it in, I remembered that justice doesn't always come with flashing lights or dramatic showdowns. Sometimes it comes in the form of a repair bill so shocking it makes a bully nearly faint. Karen thought she could get away with ripping out my EV charger, but Tesla doesn't play games, and neither does karma.